grateful to have Candace and Mary watching things to make sure that that I don't miss anything as we're going along. Speaking of which, I should turn on my original sound so you can hear better what I'm doing. Yay! All right. Yay. Okay, we are live on Facebook, and today is Tuesday, April 1st. No fooling! I have to tell you though, I've out on Facebook seen some absolutely hilarious, well done April Fools, and my favorite so far is um, it's a something I forget what it's a toilet paper brand, Northern something, Northern Softness or something like that. Anyway, I reposted it, so if you go to my page, but they created a whole ad around April Fools where they were creating artisanal toilet paper, and they have a woodworker in his shop chiseling away the very thin sheets of wood and wrapping them up onto a toilet paper roll, and it's very clever, very well done. So April 1st, 2025. Welcome everybody. I'm so glad you're here. All right, so I want to jump straight to the scoop that oh, here comes Tina. All right. So that I discovered uh, yesterday, I think possibly the day before. I'm not sure now. I'll have to go look and see exactly when this happened. But a couple weeks ago, our fearless moderator, Mary, sent me a note and said, hey, you talk about the modes all the time. Would you mind updating your modes chart with the characteristic tones of each mode? So what are the tones that make each mode characteristically their own mode? So, and she sent me a really clever website that shows all the modes in um, whole steps and half steps, which I I understand, but I don't always like to teach in because it feels very confusing. I like to use the numbers, but in this case, I translated it to just note names in the key of C. So let me show you. I'm going to share my screen with you. Oh, note. Did I have a nice vacation? Yes, thank you for asking. Yes, I did. I went to Colorado. I was there for 2 weeks. I went to Denver for the first week, and I was in Boulder for the second week visiting students. And I'll be back in Denver for several weeks this summer and in Boulder for several weeks this summer. And Sherry's out in Colorado up in Fort Collins, which is about an hour and a half away. So I look forward to seeing her and a couple other friends. I used to live in Fort Collins way back in the day. So I'm looking forward to my old stomping grounds and seeing how the city has grown. Oh my gosh, it's really grown a lot since I was there. All right, so let's go to, let me get my, let me get my page up that I want to show you. Okay, oh, that's not it. Hang on. Some things I still have to do myself, and I have to pay attention to what I'm doing here. Okay. So you guys have seen this before. I've updated it slightly, so it might look slightly different. I actually put my name on it because I found out that this had gotten out in the wild and people were sharing this and it didn't have my name on it. They're like, oh, somebody sent it to me. They're like, oh, we just saw this really cool mode start. Do you have seen this before? I'm like, yes, I wrote it, but I forgot to put my name on it. So we've got my name on it, and here are the modes and scales in the key of C. And here, this is my aha moment this week, is the characteristic notes. It turns out, as I'm talking to a friend of mine today, these are the minor seconds. So check it out. Without even looking at the modes themselves, just look at this F, B, B, F, B, F, F, C, F. I'll make it bigger for those of you who are working on tiny screens. Here we go. These are the characteristic notes in every mode. It was a total surprise. I wasn't expecting that at all. So what it turns out is that these are the minor seconds. So from E to F is a minor second, from C to B is a minor second. So it's the upper note of the minor second. So in the Ionian mode, oh, Mary, can you catch somebody's got a microphone? Yeah, thank you. So in the Ionian mode, it's the F, the E to F, and the B to C. Well, that doesn't quite follow. I'm still working at this out. But here we got in the Dorian mode, it's B. These are all naturals. F natural in the Phrygian, because if this might go kind of fast and I can go back and explain it if you wanted to. But if this were at E minor instead of E Phrygian, E minor is the natural minor of the G scale. G has an F sharp in it. The G scale has an F sharp in it. So if this were an E minor scale, this here would be an F sharp. But it's not. It's an F. Here we've got the B in the Lydian, the F in the Mixolydian, which we're going to talk about a lot tonight. Super cool. I love the G to F flavor. Here's the F in the, and also Karen Peterson, who I've mentioned a few times, who teaches the modes in a completely different way than I do, but I love the way she teaches it. She also mentioned the C here. This is not a C sharp, but a C. So the B to C. And then here in the Locrian or Locrian mode, you've got the C and the F. So what was kind of, I had a moment when I was working on this the other night, was like, oh, these are all the same notes, mostly, like C, B, and F. And so if you use those notes heavily in your modes are going to sound modal. So it's not like, oh, you have to memorize all of this for one mode. And I mean, if you do whole steps and half steps, yes, you do have to memorize it all. But this is, on the harp, super easy. Your F, your B, and your C. So we're going to be playing around tonight with the Mixolydian mode, right here. And we'll be playing, this F is essential to the Mixolydian mode, and we'll be playing with that a little bit as we go along. So I want us to stop there for a second and see if there are questions. Oh, Joyce, I don't follow what is meant by characteristic notes. Okay, so let me ask you a question first, Joyce. Do you know when I'm talking about a natural minor, do you know what I mean by that? Whoops, come back here, screen, come back.
Yeah, I know what that is.
Yeah, okay, great. All right. So let's take the Dorian mode, for example. Let me share the screen again. So here we have the Dorian mode. So if we're talking about the D minor as a natural minor, it would be the natural minor of F major. So the Dorian mode, the natural minor is the sixth, or the Aeolian of the major key. So F, G, A, B, C, D. If we're talking about D minor as the natural minor of F, then there would be a B flat here, B flat. But there's not in the Dorian mode. And this note, because that it is a B instead of B flat, is the characteristic note. It's the note that defines this. There are other things that define it, whole steps and half steps and other things are in this chart. But with that B natural in a D minor scale, you know you're dealing with a Dorian mode.
So it's the note that is distinguishing it as Dorian as opposed to minor.
That's right.
Okay, so Mixolydian, same thing. And if it were G major, it would, well, G minor would be the relative minor of B.
Right,
That
but
doesn't make sense.
careful. Right, because the Dorian is a minorish
Mhm.
mode. Mixolydian is
Oh,
a
so it's
majorish
different
mode.
for major.
It's different for
So
each mode.
G, if it were G major, it'd have an F sharp.
Right.
And this is what is different. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I just hadn't ever heard that term of characteristic notes before, so I just didn't get it. But thank you.
We could be making that up. I'm not sure that's a
Oh,
technically like musical term, but just one second. Let me see if I can find that. I didn't want to show you this, but I will. Um, the chart that Mary sent me because it's a little bit confusing. Hang on one second. And I'm very grateful to Mary for sending me. And this is the work of somebody else, so I want you to be really clear that I'm basing this particular piece of work on the work of somebody else. So, one moment. Do, 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 do. Musician poster. Okay, let me share this with you. And if you like this, go and support this person. This is, I see that's some new messages, so I'll get to those in just a second. So here are the characteristic notes for the modes in the major scale with intervals. Ooh, yeah. Okay. So I simplified this and made it for harpists. But if we're looking at the Ionian, which is the C scale, the fourth note is an F. The seventh note is a B. If we look at the Dorian mode, and D is 1, E is 2, and so forth. That's what these numbers mean. So the sixth note of the Dorian is B. If it were a D minor, it would be a 6 flat. It would be a B flat. Is that making sense? If this is like, what? Don't worry. Don't try to take it in. My chart's just designed just for harpists. But here, this is where it came from. In the Phrygian, the second. So here's E. The second note is flat. So if you have E, a regular E minor scale would have an F sharp. That would be this 2 position right here. But 2 flat is an F, not an F sharp. Just making sure that's sinking in. So this is the this is where I built our information from. So this is musician poster. I don't know who this person is, but I really liked seeing these charts. And you can go and get the PDF for, I think, for free or very minor Patreon contribution to this person and offer them, some support. So, but what I wanted to, oops, let me share my screen one more time. What I wanted to translate this into was something that we could use just in the key of C ourselves on the harp. So instead of having to work out what is a minor second or flatted whatever, I'm just giving you the notes here. So you can see that these are the notes right here. If you play in other keys, of course, these are going to change. But for now, for you for now, as one of my teachers says, for you for now, this is what you need to know. So I'll give you an example. Scarborough Fair, which is one of the songs that gets taught a lot for the Dorian mode. in the third line of Scarborough Fair, there's the B natural, and it's the only place in the song that the B natural appears, but it's an important B natural that defines this as the Dorian mode. Okay. So some of you, if you have access to this chart, it's updated. You can just go to it and grab it again. If you need me to send you the link again, just send me a note and I will send you the link to this. And actually, I'll just put it in the chat right now so that you can get access to it. This is free. This is just something that I like sharing with everybody. So here you go. This is a Google Doc. All right. Let's see. Oh, Mary says it's also referred to as a flavor note. Yeah, okay, flavor note. I like that. All right, Tina, thumbs up. Thank you. Excellent. Okay, so far so good? Okay, so take a big deep breath and let it out. Before we go on to the Mixolydian mode, I want to take a minute and talk about hand exercises and ergonomic exercises that I think are really important. Don't do them as often as I should myself, but it came up in some of my lessons this week. I'm like, oh yeah, I wrote this a few years ago and I should be doing it myself. So a lot of people come to me and they say, I just want to play. How can I just play? And one of the things that I have learned is that playing is a physical activity. Even if you don't think of yourself as an athlete, you are a harp athlete. And there are some physical things that you can do, simple physical things that you can do to make your playing easier, especially as we get older. So I have made, I'm going to share my screen again with you, some hand exercises. Here we go. Here, back to the modes for 1 second. Okay. Oh, that's not what I meant to show you. Hold on. This one, simplified. Okay. So this is from my book, the Improvising Harpist Step-by-Step Improvised Course. And Chapter 1, Module 1, there's some hand warm-ups for harpists. There's a video link here. I'll put this link in the chat and put it out as well. So in this video, there are 13 different hand exercises that you can do. And I want to show you just a couple of them. Maybe 3 or 4 of them tonight that you can do to just, if you just do these things as you sit down to play or as you think of them, it's going to improve your playing because it's just going to give you more mobility in your fingers. Okay, so let me stop sharing for a second. So the very first one is that you're going to all of these do very slowly. Okay, so you're going to splay your fingers out very wide. And then you're going to touch your index finger to your thumb in a circular way. So it's like an OK symbol. And you just open and close. So you do this 5 times. There's 3, 4, 5. Be careful not to do this. That's not helpful. It's this opening and then closing. That's really important. Then we're going to do the middle finger, same thing. Open and close. You just do 5 times. This is going to increase the blood flow into your hands. This is 4 and 5. Then we're going to do the 4th finger. This is going to improve the mobility, give you more energy in your hands. 3, 4, 5, and then the pinky, touch. Really spread this out. And I'm going kind of fast, but you want to open and close. Oh, she made it. Dr. Candace made it. All right, that's 3, 4, 5. Great. So then the next one is the same exact thing, except you're going to open and close with a flat finger, like this. Instead of like this, like this. So you're going to open, close. This just works a different part of your hand. 3, like Richard Simmons for your fingers. And then the middle finger, open. Make sure you're opening all the way. That's the important part here. Open. 3, 4, 5, and then the fourth finger close, finger straight, open. I think that's 4, 5, and then pinky. This is where you get all of your reach for your octaves and your tenths. Yeah, you get your eighths and your tenths. This makes this much easier. I lost count. 4, 5. Okay, wiggle your fingers. Nice. So the thing to know is that you have actually very few muscles in your hands. Most of what's controlling your fingers here is happening here. I don't know if you can see, the light's not great. You can, oh yeah, you can see my muscles moving here, right? As I'm opening and closing my hands. So what you're doing here is stretching the tendons and ligaments in your hands, but the actual movement of the hands is coming from here. And more of the exercises, which I'm not going to show you tonight, but I do have some exercises that specifically work this part of the arm and loosen those up. Okay. I want to show you. Okay. So then one of my other favorites that increases blood flow and mobility is finger twiddling. So you're going to touch your fingers like this. I'm going to turn my hands so you can see what I'm doing, but you do not have to do this. You can just hold your hands like this. But I'm going to twiddle my thumbs forward. Do it slowly so you can see. Twiddling forward. And then go backwards. Twiddle like 10 times. It doesn't have to be excessive. And then touch your thumbs. And then you're going to do your index fingers. You're going to twiddle in one direction. I love that word, twiddling. And then you're going to go the other direction. And touch. And then, whoops, middle fingers this way. And then go the other direction. And then touch. This is the hard one, the ring finger. Go one direction and go the other direction. I'll talk about why it's so hard in just a second. And touch, and then pinky. Which we don't use in harp, but it turns out to be rather important in playing harp, that your pinky is stretched and strong and all that. Touch. Okay. So you can wiggle your fingers, and hopefully you can feel more mobility in your fingers just by doing those few things. And then I've got 10 more exercises that you can do to continue to increase the mobility and blood flow into your fingers. So in your hands, like I said earlier, these are all connected by lots of tendons and ligaments. And if you look at your own hands, you can probably see them. It's a little hard to see in this lighting here. And what's difficult to see in your hands is that there are tendons that go down from each finger, so one from the pinky, one from the ring finger, middle finger, and the thumb. But there are also Y-shaped tendons that go from the ring finger to the pinky and the ring finger to the middle finger here. So it's kind of like a peace symbol here. So there's actually one tendon here and one tendon here and one tendon here. So 3 tendons that are right here. And that is why it's so hard to move that ring finger without the other fingers moving. There's just no getting around it. So why we're designed that way, ooh, I don't know. I have no idea. There are piano exercises that address this. Everybody who uses these fingers has to deal with the fact that there's a limitation of this ring finger. And it's the weakest finger of all the fingers. And that's something to do with the legend of why you wear a wedding ring on your 4th finger, but I forget how that goes exactly. So when you're playing harp, you want these 2 fingers, the pinky and the forefinger, to travel together because it will strengthen the motion of the 4th finger. Now, about 5 years ago, I also teach piano, and I was doing Hanon exercises. If you've played piano and you've played Hanon exercises, you know that they are finger strengthening exercises. They're not particularly interesting musically, but they are good for strengthening the fingers and having mobility. And I was doing it because I was teaching them to pianists. But then all of a sudden I realized my harp playing was getting better for no discernible reason. And then I realized, oh my gosh, it's the hand exercises, because how many of us have taken harp lessons and your harp teacher said, well, you don't play with your pinky, and then it's never discussed again. No one ever talks about the pinky in harp playing. They're like, well, use your pinky, so end of story. But what it turns out is this pinky can be a powerful ally to the fourth finger. So if you play piano and you are interested in strengthening your pinky, you can do some piano exercises that are specifically for all 5 fingers that will strengthen these 2 fingers together. If you don't play piano, now you know, but you don't have to, it's totally optional to do that, but I wanted to share that with you. So, but as you're doing these various exercises, harp exercises that I'm going to send out to you guys, do all 5. Because even though we're not playing with the pinky, it's still there. Well, unless you're Irish and from the 17th century, then you chop it off. But the rest of us got to keep our pinkies and keep playing with them and keep using them. All right, so 2 new messages down here. Great for arthritis and trigger fingers. Yeah, you're welcome. This is the best way to spend a half an hour. Yep, for sure. So let's see. Let me put that in the chat as well. This is again a free resource for everybody to use. And I'll make sure that this is in the recording as well, in the notes for the recording as well. All right, good. All right, so now let's go back. I wanted to share those 2 things, the aha about the notes and my finger exercises. So now let's talk Mixolydian for a little bit. So I'm gonna bring this back up. Boo boo, do 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 do. Mixolydian is one of my favorites, and it shows up a lot in Celtic music. Loads and loads and loads of Celtic tones use the Mixolydian mode. That's my terrible Irish accent. Okay, so this is what we're looking at. So we're in the key of C, but we're building a scale that starts and ends on the 5th note of the C scale. In this case, it's the note G. If you like other keys better, you can definitely translate this to another key by starting and ending on the 5th note of a D scale, or a G scale, or a C sharp scale, or whatever you like. But tonight we're going to be working with the C scale. And so we've got the notes here, G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, the numbers, the whole steps, the root chord number, which is a 5, oops, G, B, D, and so forth. And I've got my trusty dice. Here we go. Which we've talked about in the past. So I'm going to pull one of these dice out and just set it to a 5. Because that's the first one I'm going to start with. And I may not do that just yet, but I do want to set that out so I don't forget. So let's make sure. I'm going to stop sharing my screen so you can see. Let me stop for a second and ask if there are questions so far. Nope. Okay. All right. So one of the tunes that I learned from Christina Turin, who I learned a whole bunch of this modal music and chord theory and all that stuff from, is a song called the Silkie, sometimes called the Selkie. So it's sometimes spelled S-I-L-K-I-E and sometimes S-E-L-K-I-E. And a Selkie is a half woman, half seal. And there's all kinds of famous Irish stories about the Selkie. There's a movie called The Secret of Roan Inish. If you haven't seen that, that's from the 90s, maybe the 80s. A story of 2 kids who discover a Selkie. And that, your favorite movie to Rebecca. Ah, yes. So the story is that if you catch a Selkie when she's in her human form and you find her seal skin, you can command her to do pretty much what you want because you've got control of her seal skin. Once she gets back to the ocean, all bets are off. But let's see. I was thrilled when I found an exercise book for my granddaughter's Cinderella Hannons. Yep. There are lots of good exercise books out there that are similar to Hannons. There's an updated Hannons. Hannon is over 100 years old, but there's an updated Hannon. There's a jazz Hannon, and there are lots of others. So please feel free to share all these resources with each other. I don't know if I have to think about how I would do a Hannon exercise in Mixolydian. That would take a little bit. I'm not going to do that tonight because that's a little brain power. Okay, so let's talk about the Mixolydian scale first. So it's now if this were a regular G scale, of course we would have an F sharp on the top here. Regular G scale, Ionian G scale. But what makes this Mixolydian is that F is an F natural. Okay. And as we've talked about before, what makes something any mode is where you start, what you start with. So we're going to start with a G. I'm going to start down here. So far, just a normal G chord, nothing to indicate that this is anything other than G major. But then when I go to the second chord, which I'm going to make an F natural. I'm just playing triads. That's, hang on one second. I did tune, but that B sounds a little, so pardon me while I fix that for just 1 second. Of course, you can't do that when you're in the middle of playing background music or whatever. Well, maybe you can. Depends on how much the audience is playing. Oops. There we go. Okay. All right. So in the realm of chords, oh, that's better. So the tune, the Selkie, is Joan Baez sang this. And then there's a little C chord tossed in here. This is a really old tune and it's out of copyright, so you'll be able to find it anywhere for free. If you have trouble finding it, just let me know and I can send you a copy. So. Here's the C chord. Oops. So if you're looking for something Mixolydian to play, that's a good one. And if we'll do a plug for MuseScore. If you guys don't know about MuseScore, it's a website, MuseScore. There's all kinds of free music on MuseScore that people have, just people like you and me have written and put out there and made available for free, or really old songs that are out of copyright. You can get them for there. And then you can also, I have a subscription. You can get in copyright or created stuff that you have to pay for. I get for not for free, but through my subscription. But MuseScore. But so the basis of this tune, the Selkie, is this G to F. So as we've talked about before, I recommend setting a timer for something that feels kind of uncomfortably long. And whatever uncomfortable feels like to you, that might be 2 minutes, that might be 5 minutes, that might be 20 minutes, whatever feels like, because if you push yourself to go just a little bit longer, you're going to find something new. So new is always on the other side of boredom. New is always on the other side of scary. And the thing to remember when playing the harp is that you're not going to die. It's not going to kill you. Nobody's watching you, at least right now. So it's you are free to try things, to do things that might feel embarrassing or frightening or scary or hard, and make mistakes, and it's okay. It's okay. That's where you find the new stuff. That's where you find the new stuff. If you do the same thing over and over, so I will say, and I've said this before too, one of the things Christina Turin taught me was keep playing the same thing over and over again until you're bored with it, and then you will move on. So that does two things. When you play the same thing over and over again, it builds patterns that you have in your hands, but it also then gives you that kind of cushion to then build on to the next thing, to go to the next thing. And when I was a younger music student, when I was in my teens, we probably all experienced this at some point where you're like, you just barely have control of it, and the teacher's like, okay, you've got it, let's move on to the next thing. But you never really had a chance to deeply master that because you're on to the next thing. So I'm encouraging you to deeply master whatever you love. Okay, so I want to give you a few more ideas here, a few more of my favorites, and then we're going to roll the dice and see what comes up. So we've got so this is a G chord to a D minor chord. Very similar to the F. Very similar to the F. So in the F chord, we've got F, A, C. In the D minor, we've got D, F, and A. So we've got two of the same notes in that F, in the F major chord that are in the D minor chord. And crucially, that F natural is in there. I love this. That D gives it some depth. For me, is very oceany. The Mixolydian is a very oceany sound to me, anyway. not so crazy about the E, but I wouldn't have known that if I hadn't accidentally played that. But then I like, well, maybe I just don't like it on first tasting. Maybe I would need to try it again. This is E, D. La 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 la. Okay, so
Simber,
yes,
for those of us who can't, like myself, can't see very well, would you mind calling out the chords?
sure, yeah.
Oh, thank you
So
so
I'm
much.
doing, yeah, so I'm doing a G to a D minor, G, G, D minor, G, D minor, back to G. So I'm just moving back and forth between those two chords. And then,
I thought there was an F in there. Sorry.
no, there's an F note in there, but not an F. Well, I'm not playing that. Okay, so full disclosure. In the left hand, I'm playing G and D minor. But this is how the chords are all interlocked, interrelated. It's so cool. I really geek out on this. That if you play a D minor, D, F, and A in the left hand, and then you play an F chord in the right hand, F, A, C, you're really playing a D minor 7 chord. So yes, I might have been playing an F chord in the right hand because I was playing this D minor 7 up here. So so D minor 7 is D, F, A, and C. Or you can say it's a D minor chord over an F chord. And then, which I didn't do until this very second, is to throw this F on top here. This is a G7 chord. So if it got a G chord in the bottom here, G, B, D, and then in the right hand I've got B, D, F. This is a B diminished chord. It's the Locrian mode. So they're all like so close to each other and support each other. But that F sounds so different in the D minor chord, right, than up here. Even though if you do a B, D, F, and a B diminished 7th chord, it's really a D minor chord with a B on the bottom. This is what I love about doing theory on the harp. It's so much easier than the piano. Let's sit down here. So I'm doing a B diminished 7th chord, so B, D, F, A. and then back down. And then a G7, G, B, D, F. So then I'm going back to the D minor chord. So far, so good? So far, so good? Okay. This might be a little like too nerdy, but I'm going to toss it out there anyway. So if you're talking about a circle of fifths, the fifth note of a scale leads back to the first note. So in this case, it's the D. That's because G is the first note, G. So that's why this D minor leads so nicely back to the G. And that is true for any fifth. That's true for any fifth. So if you're working in C major, fifth note of C major is a G, C, D, E, F, G. You can play those C's and G's together. Different mode entirely, but at the 1-5. The 1-5 is a nice mixture. Okay. We're almost, I've been yapping on about all kinds of things. We haven't spent as much time on the Mixolydian mode tonight. So if you can stay a few more minutes, I've got my dice because I want to always encourage to have some dice on your desk or on your music stand. And we're going to start with this one. So I'm not going to roll this one. This is the 5 though, but I am going to take the rest of my, let's do 3, 4. So I got 3 here. I'm going to roll them and see what we get here. Okie dokie. I've got a 1, a 3, and a 6. I don't know what order that's going to sound like. None of that is really, honestly, Mixolydian because there's not a lot of F going on in any of those except the 5. But this is what the universe has given us, so that's what we're going to do. So I'm just going to play them in this order to start with, but as I learned from Stephanie Bieber, if you haven't studied with her, she's a German improvisational harpist. She teaches in English quite a bit. Check out her work. She's the one who taught me about dice. And she says, well, just roll the dice and play them in the order they come out in, but then you may find that your ear naturally wants you to put them in a different order. So we'll see what happens here. So that's what I've got. I've got a 5. This is a G, a 1, a 3, and a 6. They sound like 4 decent chords, but they're not like flowing together for me. So I'm gonna try a 5, a 6. So doing. That's not bad. That's 5, 6, 1, 3. Try 5, 6, 3, 1. I would have to, honestly, I have to work with this a bit. I want to keep the 5 the first one because I'm doing Mixolydian on purpose. But if I do 5, 3, 6, 1, which is another option, let's see. That's better. It's 5, 3, E minor, 6, A minor, C, 1. That would be a challenge for me. That's not a chord progression I would naturally choose. So the dice have given me something to work with. Have to go and figure that out. Play around with it. Wouldn't the 5 in the G Mixolydian be the D chord? Well, okay. Back to so Joyce, you got a good question there. So would the 5 in the G Mixolydian be the D chord? But a D chord, if you were talking about a D major chord, a D major chord has an F sharp in it. You're talking about D minor chord. Yeah, D minor chord. That's right. The 5 chord in the G Mixolydian would be the D minor chord. Yeah. And that's what we were doing a second ago. That sounds way more Mixolydian than what I was doing with the dice here. So I would say what the dice have given me here is not really what I would call Mixolydian, because there's not enough F going on here to make that really that Mixolydian, G Mixolydian flavor. But how would I know if I didn't try? And that's what I encourage you to do. Like, how would you know? Rather than the G, it sounded like you're using the 5, 6, 3 in the C Ionian scale. Well, yeah, yes. I mean, but it depends on what note you start on. That's what defines what scale what mode you're in. So because I started on a G, I could say technically I'm technically in the Mixolydian mode, but it doesn't sound very Mixolydian. It sounds more Ionian. Yeah. Now, when you get to, and now I'm going to depart from Mixolydian for just a minute. When you've got the 5 followed by the 3, that minor second from the E to the F can sound kind of creepy. Yeah, it can sound kind of, it's in the neighborhood of the Locrian mode. It gets used less, the Phrygian mode gets used less than some of the other, and the Locrian mode gets used less than some of the other modes. So, look at the dice and go, well, thanks, but no, not tonight. And you have freedom to do that too. Just because the dice, you throw some dice and you try it and you're like, yeah, blah. Blah. Yeah, throw the dice again or get rid of them altogether. But you tried and now you know. And that's, Thomas Edison said he knew 100 ways not to make a light bulb before he figured out the way to make a light bulb. Right? And since nobody's pressuring you to come up with amazing stuff, you have the latitude to come up with not amazing stuff, so you know. And then later on, what has been my experience is as I continue to play with these, some of the stuff that I used to think was not so amazing was really more that I just didn't know how to do it. I didn't at that time when I was younger, I just didn't know how to make it amazing. It was just, but gradually, like it becomes an acquired taste. And I've learned how to play around with these a little bit more. So, okay, questions? Is this helpful? Yay! All right, I've got some thumbs up. I kind of trying to see everybody here. I'm gonna make myself small so I can see everybody. I can only see a few people at a time when I make myself big. Hi, Carolyn. Welcome. I'm glad I made myself small so I could remember to say that if you are close to Colorado Springs this summer, the Colorado Celtic Harp Society will be having their annual retreat at the Franciscan Center in Colorado Springs. It's absolutely beautiful and highly recommended. And Carolyn is your contact for that. So if you're interested in coming out or coming up or coming over, I will probably be there. I think I'll be able to be there this year. So I'm looking forward to coming. Yeah. Candace, you have your hand up. Did you have a question or comment?
Well, I was just wondering, you can do this outside of the class, but what are your favorite Mixolydian tunes, like folk tunes or popular tunes or anything? And everybody can chime in on this. Maybe we can have a off-class list of things. I get stuck on a couple of songs, but I love the sound of Mixolydian.
Yes. Yes, I agree. I started a list. Let me make a note to I started a list and I found it wasn't as easy and straightforward as I thought it was going to be to make a pretty easy to make a list of Ionian tunes. There are Mixolydian passages in songs that seem to be easier to come up with. But yeah, I can put it out to the Facebook group or put it out to my email list and see what other songs other people have that they like. Let me put it on my to-do list here. List of a lot of medieval stuff. I will point you to Stella Benson's book. Stella's passed now, but Stella wrote a book called The Gift of the Healing Modes. And she took 10 mostly Gregorian chants. Some of it is Hildegard, but it's in that time frame, ancient French chants, and put them in different modes. So she took Myri's Wedding, which is a Mixolydian tune, but put it in all the different modes. So she took 10 tunes and put them all in different modes, and so you can play with them that way and hear how maybe familiar tune sounds when you put it in a different mode. But yeah, great. I like that idea. I will put that out to everybody. Oh my Lord, Joyce, you have some, okay, Scottish pipes. Send some tunes out. Let's hear them. Let's have them. I think that'd be great. Wonderful. Okay, cool. Yeah, we're all hearting and thumbing your comment there. That's fantastic. All right. Okay, so our next gathering is in 2 weeks. And we'll do a practice and share session of this kind of thing. And if you have other ideas that you'd like to talk about or have me talk about, I keep coming up with ideas. I'm trying to get better about writing down my ideas as I think of them. Like, oh, I should talk about this. And then I hope I'll remember, and then I don't. So I'm trying to get better about remembering things. Katie, welcome. Glad you're here. Where are you from? You from someplace silent?
Someplace silent. Nevada City, California.
Oh, wonderful. I have some friends who live up there.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
We just had snow and hail
I heard.
and a tornado warning, so it's been a day.
Oh my gosh. Everything okay in your neighborhood?
Yep.
Okay,
Yeah.
good. I'm glad to hear it. I'm glad to hear it.
That sounds like Wisconsin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey,
Yeah,
I
well-
want, one thing I wanted to ask you, Simber, can you do more of the incorporating the intervals in the right hand with the improv as you're introducing these different modes?
Sure.
That would
Sure,
be
I can
super
do that.
great. Yeah.
So I'm glad you asked that because I was thinking about that. So let me say just
Thank you.
a couple more things about that, if that's okay, to go over just a little bit longer. So what I'm playing initially, when I first start playing something, I'm playing triads. This is back to G and F, and then the way I was taught, and I think this is a good way to start. This isn't the way to do everything, but it's a good way to start, is to keep the left hand steady. Whatever pattern you pick, just stay with that for a while. This is a 1 and 2, 3, 1 and 2, 3. I'm a 3, 4, and 6, 8 girl, so you hear me play that a lot. And then let the right hand wander. And your choices, you really have two choices. You can either play notes next to each other, or you can play skips. So you can play little bits of a scale. And I loved a class I took years and years and years ago from Deborah Henson Conant. She said, okay, I want you to, every note you play, the next note you play has to be next to the note you just played. This was a little exercise she did with us. But you could play the same, go back. So this would count. And this would count. Every note that you play is next to the note that you just played. So it doesn't have to just be a scale. You could go up and down. Oops, cheated a little bit there. And then the other option is to play notes that are not next to each other. So you could say, okay, I've played notes that are next to each other. Now I'm going to play notes that are not next to each other. Oops, that was next to each other. I'm cheating. And it doesn't have to be every other note. It could be in fourths. Oh, that sounded like Star Trek, right? Ba 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 ba. On fourths. Okay, Gene Roddenberry's really happy. Da, 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 da. I didn't know that till tonight. So there you go. And you can play fifths. Six. Not everything's going to sound good. And this is why I have you get your Deborah For You or whatever exercise book that you love and learn those exercises so that they're there as patterns for you to play with.
And then with your left hand, then after you do those triads for a while, then do you progress to that 4-2-1 pattern?
Yeah, so then I would do so that's
Yeah.
Or you can do, this is 4-2-1 is the finger numbers, and the string numbers is 1, 5, 8. But I also like a 1, 5, 10. This requires more work because I don't do this a whole lot. But I'm doing what's called a roving thumb, So on the bottom, I'm doing 1, 5. And then on the top, I do a 10, 1, 5, 9, 1, 5, 8, 1, 5, 7, 1, 5, maybe 1, 5, 6, who knows? Maybe back up from there.
That in itself is beautiful.
I know.
And it doesn't seem like you need to add much more in your right hand when you do that. It's so gracious. Yeah.
Right.
Thanks so much.
Yeah, you're welcome. And for me, I feel like the busier the left hand is, the simpler the right hand should be. Otherwise, because of the expansiveness of the strings, and that it's not like piano where you lift your fingers off the strings and they stop ringing. It can get too notey and start to sound muddy. Just my opinion. So I like to keep it more open and expansive and airy. Yeah. Yeah. Yep. Cool. All righty. Well, thank you all for coming tonight. I'm just delighted to see you. Happy spring. We're in the season of spring officially now. It's been for a week and a half or so since late March.
The season of allergies.
It's
for some of us.
It's the season of questionability.
Right. It's, we're about to have some really bad weather here tomorrow. I'm kind of, we had a bad storm on Sunday.
Yeah.
And lost a lot of trees, and power went out for some of my friends. They're still without power. And we're going to get some more tomorrow. So it's the Midwest in the spring.
But this really keeps us nice and warm and cozy. Just seeing all the different faces and people, it's really great.
That's true.
Cool.
That's totally true. Yeah. Well, thank you for coming. Let your friends know you all are welcome. Daffodils in Oregon are beautiful. Oh, I'm jealous. The flowers are already. We've got teeny little purple somethings, and they're not hyacinths, but I'm not sure what they are, but they're little tiny. So we got a few flowers that are coming up. But yeah. Okie
Crocus,
dokie.
maybe?
Yeah,
Crocus?
April crocus. Oh, they might be crocuses actually. Yeah, they might be little tiny. They're maybe this tall.
Yeah.
Yeah. The lake just unfroze a couple weeks ago, so we're still recovering from started like, oh, the water moves again. This is really nice. Oh, but I have to tell you, so as I have never heard this. If you grew up on a lake, maybe you've heard this. But I was walking down by the lake. We've got a fairly large lake here on campus, and it was still frozen, but it was starting to melt, and it was making whale sounds.
Oh, it's what they call the moaning.
Moaning of the lake.
Yeah.
I first thought it was airplanes overhead, but we don't have. Then I thought it was highway traffic, but we don't have a highway. And then I realized that sound was coming from the lake. So I recorded. My phone is not adequate to the task at all, but recorded some of that. And and I thought by now, like the Danes or the Finnish or the Swedish would have had some like poetic name for this, but
that would be a great soundscape.
Right.
Oh, strange.
Cryoacoustics or something dry sounding like that was all I could find. So, yeah. So April 15th for the next PlayShop, and get your taxes in early so you can become stress-free. And we'll look forward to seeing you all here. And in between, feel free to shoot me comments or questions, and I will do my best to answer them and get back to you.
Thank you.
All right, everyone. Thank you. Have a great
Bye,
evening.
everyone.
Good night.
Bye-bye.
Thank you so much.